Okay, get this. We're going to talk about an animal that is somehow both a notorious pest and an ecological savior. We're talking about the humble rabbit and how it was used to perform what you could call an environmental miracle in one of the world's harshest deserts. So to really get this, you have to wrap your head around a pretty wild paradox. In Australia, you've got 200 million rabbits running around, a declared plague causing massive destruction. But then in China, they've become a key part of this astonishing restoration project. Same animal, two completely opposite outcomes. So how on earth is that possible? How can one animal be a devastating force of nature in one place and the key to rebirth in another? Well, the answer lies in the sands of a place once called the Sea of Death. Our story really kicks off in China's Kubuki Desert. And look, for decades, this wasn't just some patch of sand. No. It was this aggressive, expanding threat, just consuming everything in its path. The battle against it seemed pretty much impossible. The enemy here, it actually has a name. It's called desertification. It's basically when fertile land just gives up and turns into desert. In the Kubuki, it was the poster child for this. A relentless sea of sand that just kept growing and growing. And the scale of this problem, it's just staggering. Can you imagine a desert swallowing 500,000 acres of good land every single year? People tried things, planting trees, trying to control the sand, but it all failed. The desert just seemed unstoppable. But then this one entrepreneur, a guy named Wang Wenbiao, he comes along with what sounds like a pretty strange idea. He starts planting these grids of dried straw to shield newly planted willow trees from the crazy desert winds. It looked bizarre, right? People definitely thought he was crazy, but his plan had this hidden logic to it. And you know what? For a few years, it actually worked. The trees were surviving. But a whole new problem popped up. See, for these trees to be valuable for things like paper and furniture, their new shoots had to be constantly pruned. Why? To make the main trunk grow nice and thick. But doing that by hand in a huge, remote desert, yeah, that was incredibly expensive and just so difficult. And this is where the story takes this absolutely ingenious turn. The solution to this big economic puzzle wasn't some new machine. It wasn't a bunch of funding. Nope. It was something small, furry, and completely unexpected. So enter the Rex rabbit. Now, this specific breed, it wasn't chosen by accident. Oh no. It's famous for its incredibly soft fur, which is super valuable to the luxury clothing industry. But its real magic was in its appetite. And here is how it all connects in this brilliant cycle. You see, the rabbits loved to eat the thin new shoots of the willow trees, the exact ones that needed pruning. So this natural labor made the trees more valuable. But wait, it gets even better. The rabbits' waste, it fertilized the sand. And the undigested grass seeds in their droppings, they would sprout, planting new vegetation automatically. Come on, it's a perfect self-sustaining loop. Okay, so the crucial point here, the real game changer, is that this wasn't just an ecological fix, it was an economic one. The rabbits were providing free labor, they were creating valuable fertilizer, their fur was basically a cash crop, and boy, did they multiply fast. An entire green economy was literally born right there in the middle of the desert. So with this whole system in place, the results were, they were nothing short of a miracle. The Sea of Death actually started to transform into an oasis of life. So get this, over 3 decades, an area of over 6,000 square kilometers, that is a third of the entire desert, has been turned green. To put that in perspective, that's an area larger than the entire state of Delaware. Just incredible. And this really shows you the human impact. In a region where people were literally fleeing poverty, the average farmer's annual income has now jumped to nearly $10,000. Wealth was, it was literally growing from the sand. And we're not just talking about a few farms here. An estimated 100,000 people have had their lives totally transformed, finding new jobs and real prosperity in what used to be a barren wasteland. But they didn't stop there. The innovation just kept coming. On the newly stabilized land, they built the world's largest solar power image, a massive farm shaped like a galloping horse so big you can see it from space. And this isn't just any solar farm. It's a masterpiece of integrated design. The panels provide shade, right? Which means grass can grow underneath. And who are the groundskeepers? The rabbits, of course. They eat the grass, fertilize the soil, and the whole structure even slows down the desert wind. It's just brilliant, multi-purpose, eco-friendly design. So, what does this all mean? Let's circle back to that original question we asked at the beginning and finally solve this rabbit paradox. And here it is, the answer. In Australia, rabbits were just let loose into an uncontrolled environment and they became this invasive nightmare. But in China, they were introduced into a very carefully managed system. They weren't a plague, they were a tool. The whole difference was intention and design. You know, there's a sentiment that just sums this all up perfectly. The Kubukwi story really shows that when human ingenuity decides to work with nature's processes instead of fighting against them, even the most hostile environments on Earth can be transformed. And believe me, the world has taken notice. The Kubukwi model isn't just some local success story. It's now seen as a potential blueprint for fighting desertification all over the globe. A true eco-economic revolution. Which really leaves us with one final thought. This whole story started with an idea that, let's be honest, people thought was completely crazy. It just proves that with the right perspective, that line between a plague and a miracle, it can be redrawn. It kind of makes you wonder, what other impossible problems out there are just waiting for their own rabbit solution?